Well, we welcome you to Daybreak this morning and our Health Monday segment. And a gentleman from Marble City Pharmacy here with us again today. And Jared and Jacob, and it's good to have them with us this morning. And we're talking about a subject today that, you know, the older I get, the more concerned I become when I notice I have heartburn, because that can trigger or can be a symptom of something else too. But we are talking about heartburn this morning. What's that other word you got?
GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease.
That's some
How's that
serious.
make
That's
you feel?
wow.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
He stay up all night coming up with that word.
Years. He's been working on that for years, longer than one night.
I mean, we laugh about it a little bit, but it's a serious problem that some people have.
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, heartburn, as we commonly call it, is not really related to the heart at all, right? Heartburn, when you think of it, is kind of that feeling of burning right behind the chest bone. I guess maybe we call it heartburn because it's close to the area of the heart. I don't really know how that word originated. One of the things we can get to later, though, is it is important to differentiate that from some symptoms that might be indicative of something much more serious and acute, like a heart attack. So.
Yeah. Jacob, what causes heartburn? What causes that?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to run down a list of things that can
Other than
lead to
eating late at
heartburn.
night.
Right. Lead to heartburn or increase your chances of heartburn. Let's start with your eating late at night, because when we lay down, gravity works against us. So heartburn, we'll go with, let's go with what causes it and then the things that lead to it. What causes it is, it's my turn for a long word. We all buckled in? We ready?
Do it.
Between your esophagus, this pipe that your food goes down, and your stomach, which is what we're all very familiar with, there's a muscle called the, here we go, lower esophageal sphincter. It's the longest word I know. Well, it's 3 words, but I've
Got a flap on it.
Yeah, it's basically a muscle that stays closed. When your food passes through it, it relaxes so that your food can go through it. And then it closes back so that nothing comes back the other way. When you have acid reflux, it opens back up and stuff goes back up the other way from your stomach acid, and it burns your esophagus. And that's what causes heartburn. It's the feeling of burning when stuff that's acid down here in your stomach passes back up through that sphincter, up into your esophagus, and it burns.
And it can come all the way up too.
Oh, absolutely. Completely up.
Yeah.
So yeah, from all the way from here to here, you've got a chance.
You know, it's maybe a little bit gross, but
Well, it can be.
you know, I've suffered from that before,
Sure.
and wake up startled because I think something's wrong with me.
Yeah, you're right. When you talk about people with reflux, heartburn is the most common symptom, but there's a symptom that's pathognomonic. Pathognomonic just means,
Oh my goodness.
that just means that if you have this symptom, it's definitely indicative of this disease, and that is the regurgitation, sometimes called the water brash phenomenon. It feels like something sour,
Yeah,
something really acidic has
absolutely.
come back up in your throat. Usually it's just liquid that contains acid, but sometimes there's food involved as well. When you have that symptom, you know what you're dealing with is acid reflux.
Heartburn, a lot of people suffer from that. I mean, right?
It's extremely common, and we need to differentiate between what is heartburn versus what is Jared's word of the day, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Heartburn, we almost all get from time to time. That's pretty much universal. Every now and then I eat something, it gets to me, my chest burns a little bit. If you have it, 2 or more times a week, it starts to affect your lifestyle. It causes other damage to your esophagus. Then your doctor would diagnose you with gastroesophageal reflux disease. But the first part of that, the heartburn, again, that's almost everybody from time to time. Very few people don't experience heartburn from time to time.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the symptoms and some of the foods that can expedite this problem.
Well, first thing we probably think about is spicy food. We go to the Mexican restaurant and next thing we know, a few hours later, we have heartburn. But there's all kinds of things in addition to spicy food. Certain kinds of mints, like peppermint cause it. I find that doing it to myself, by the way. I avoid peppermints totally. Smoking, alcohol, citrus type flavored drinks, caffeine, carbonation. I just happened to have a drink on the way in this morning that was citrus flavored, carbonated, and caffeinated. So that's foolish for me to do because I do have GERD myself. And so all those things can contribute. There are other, I don't know what.
Just a little side note here. Show you how smart I am. I've used peppermint to treat heartburn.
Well, as long as you got it figured out. Right.
It's probably made it worse.
It didn't work, but I wonder why.
I think I know why. That's right. There are other not conditions is the right word. There are other contributing factors that lead to reflux that may have some effect on the flap between the stomach and the esophagus. For example, persons who are obese, if you just think about that, the pressure that's caused by the obesity, the more pressure you put on the stomach, the more likely that flap is to malfunction. If you're wearing tight-fitting clothes in the abdomen area, that can contribute as well. If you find yourself leaning over, hunched like this, right after you eat a big meal, that almost always will make that flap malfunction and the contents come back into your esophagus.
Now, Jared, there are particular foods that I steer away from because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen every time with certain foods. Jared named a lot of them. A couple he missed that, some of us tend to like okay, and that's chocolate. He didn't specify it. He beat around the bush coffee. Anything with tomatoes in it. Ketchup. Bad. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Ketchup on my burger is a must. And so, things like there's so many. And then he mentioned obesity. He mentioned smoking. Just the act and the things that are in smoking take that flap in your stomach and make it weaker. Smoking itself doesn't give you heartburn. There's no food in a cigarette that's going to burn your esophagus itself. But smoking takes that flap and weakens it. So you're more likely to have symptoms. And all these things that go in together, how and what we eat, how healthy we eat, whether or not we exercise, because that leads to weight gain. Here's what happens. We all have a wardrobe. We got pants at the house. We gain a few vanity pounds. Those pants get a little tighter.
What do you call them?
Vanity pounds. And then we gain a whole lot more weight. Now, we gain a few pounds. Our pants are a little tighter. We're carrying a little more weight. We're probably not eating as good. We're gaining that weight. We're probably not exercising as much as we should. The things we're eating are the less healthy things that lead to. It's just like this perfect storm that it comes from a lot of little minor things. Gaining a few pounds, not a big deal. All these little minor things, the perfect storm that all of a sudden I have recurrent heartburn constantly just because I gained a few pounds, I ate a little bit less good, I drank some things I shouldn't have, and then all of a sudden I'm burning all the time.
Jared, I have found that if I eat fast, I'm more susceptible to heartburn later.
Oh, you can be, sure. I forgot to mention this earlier. Some of the things that we're talking about are annoyances for our life. A lot of us live with heartburn. A lot of us live with reflux. I think it's important for us to discuss how it can become serious. And here's the risk with untreated reflux over time. As the acidic contents of the stomach continue to come back in the esophagus over weeks and months and years, that can do damage to the lining of the esophagus. And sometimes that damage is treatable and sometimes it's minor, but sometimes it can turn into something very serious called Barrett's esophagus. That's just a name for a certain type of esophageal damage that is particularly something that very much increases your risk for esophageal cancer. And so that's why GERD or reflux is not something that we just want to, quote, live with, because there is a long-term risk if it goes untreated.
So speaking of treatments, what are some of them?
Well, you got 2 or 3 categories. If you have the occasional heartburn that we all have, reach for the quickest thing and the safest and least side effects. Grab you some Tums or Mylanta. The chalkier and more disgusting, the quicker it works.
I hate when you say that.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, don't go grab the coolest new package with the best coloring on the shelf or the newest, Nexium over the counter. This
almost like a piece of candy.
This must be great. No. No, grab the oldest, chalkiest, most nasty. If you get the occasional once a week heartburn, grab a couple of Tums or Mylanta. Safe, side effects are minimal, cheap, available, lasts forever in your cabinet. You know, that's the kind of thing you want for the occasional heartburn. Then we move up to what are, acid preventers or blockers. You've got your older ones, your Zantac, Tagamets, nobody buys Axid anymore. Pepsid, forgot Pepsid. Those, they block acid production in your stomach. You take them a couple of times a day. You can take them long term. However, and we'll say this for the next category too, if you find yourself having to take these things long term, it's time to go to the doctor and make sure you don't have something more damaging going on. Let the doctor control it. And then third category is our newest category, long-term proton pump inhibitors. Whoa. Using long terms again, ready? Okay. And those are your Prilosec, your Nexiums, Prevacid, so on and so forth. And when you get those, they also block acid production, but they're protective for your esophagus. So again, we're moving up a step in treatment, what we can do with them. They can help heal your esophagus if you're having some of those damages. And so long term, those are your strongest bets. But for your once a week guy, your once a week lady with a little occasional heartburn, there's no sense in jumping up to that. Let's stick with the Tums and the Rolaids and the Mylanta.
Okay. I have been told, and I've heard people tell these stories about, they had heartburn, indigestion, and they felt pressure in their chest, and it frightened them.
Sure.
And so, can that be a symptom of something more dangerous?
Oh, yeah, sure. Unless we know for sure, I want to be very clear about this, and I know Jacob does too. And unless we know for sure that we have heartburn, that's something that the first time we experience it, we need to get it checked out. Because what if it is a heart attack?
Right.
Generally speaking, if you have a burning, a pressing sensation on your chest, if that goes along with shortness of breath or pain in the shoulders or arms or jaw or something like that, then there's a great chance that's not acid reflux. And so there are some more serious things we need to make sure that we go to the physician to rule out, basically. I do want to share something with you about taking the medications. This may be the most important thing your pharmacist could do for you for these drugs, is when to take these medications. Jacob referred to the antacids, your Mylanta, your Maalox, your Rolaids, your Tums. Those work best if they're taken roughly 1 hour after you eat. They only work when they're in the stomach. Their job is to neutralize stomach acid. So once they've left the stomach, they're not helping you anymore. So you take them on an empty stomach, they're gone pretty quick. You take them 1 hour after you eat, for lack of a better way to say it, they sit on top of your food, they're in the stomach longer, they work longer. The medications that are histamine blockers, which would be your Pepsid, Zantac, Tagamet, and their generics. Those are best taken 30 minutes to 1 hour before you eat, but they only last 12 hours. You have to do one before breakfast and one before dinner. Those can also be used as not a maintenance thing. They can be used as an acute thing, but they're best taken 30 minutes, hour before you eat. The proton pump inhibitors, your Prilosec, your Nexium, your Prevacid, all the ones in that family, both over the counter and prescription, have to be taken 30 minutes to 1 hour before the largest meal of the day, or they won't work.
All right, guys, appreciate you being with us this morning. Time's gone. If you need more information, contact the guys at Marble City Pharmacy. We got more Daybreak right after this.